Let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about after 50 to get a 5. A touchdown with Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Left with White. Beavers are he's gone. Touchdown. Tavon Austin.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
They want to have a 7-on-7 drill. We want to make it a fist fight. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football.
From the heart, streaming, it's Mountaineer pride. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
West Virginia is a special place. People of the state that have great pride in this WV logo.
And you'll stop at the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back to the Country Roads webcast, February 25th live stream edition here. Figured it was about time to, try and hop back, getting into the groove of doing some of these live streams again consistently, because, of course, once spring practice starts here next month, going to be doing at least one a week throughout, spring practice's duration leading up to the spring game, which we'll talk about the date for that momentarily. But figured we use this live stream obviously for Q&A for one, let you guys guide the conversation. So as always, drop any questions, comments, concerns you got there in the chat. We'll talk about anything you guys want. But other than that, I've got some news stories pulled up. Just kind of going to use this as an off-season roundup, talk about some things that happened lately, roster-wise, coaching staff-wise, some of the transfers West Virginia's brought in. PFF College has been showing us a ton of love. I want to pull up some of those tweets, talk a little bit about that. The WVU NIL store has been announced throughout this offseason. You may not have known. I think I did a video on it previously, but going to touch on it again here as well. And then EA Sports College Football 25 has been big news lately. I'm a huge fan of that game. I've been updating it a ton on my other channel, JC's Pop Culture. Going to continue to do that, but some WVU points I wanted to talk about involved with that game. And then I got a list of everything we know thus far. Did a video on the other channel about it, but figured, hey, we'll bring it up here, talk about it a little bit in the live stream. Get us through here. Got several topics, but like I said, always encourage you guys to drop your thoughts in there and let you guys guide the conversation. I see Timothy in here and a few others. What's going on, Timothy? Good to see you, man. Timmy always in here loyal to tune in and chime in. He says, let's go Mountaineers. As always, appreciate that. And if you are in here live, like Tim, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Really helps a ton with the YouTube algorithm, helps push this out to more Mountaineer Nation, and that'll help whether you're watching this live or even if you're watching on a playback. But if you are in here live, I encourage you to share any questions, comments, concerns you have in the chat there. But let's kick this off talking a little bit about the aforementioned spring game there. Pull up the tweet West Virginia football's account put out earlier this offseason about the spring game. In case you didn't know, there it is. April 27th will be the date of the Gold Blue game this year in Morgantown. Obviously, I think March 15th is the date that spring practice starts. So about a month and a couple weeks later, give or take there, play the spring game on April 27th. And this should be one to tune into. I know that'll probably obviously be streamed, I guess, on ESPN Plus is usually where they do it, I think. But if you can get a ticket, I think it's usually, $5 or $10. And obviously it donates WVU Children's Hospital. All that money goes directly to them. So that's, it's for a great cause for one. You can get a good look at this team that's going to be, one of the most anticipated WVU seasons in quite some time. But I think the big selling point here for this year's spring game is probably much like it was in 2019, the unveiling of a new uniform set for West Virginia. We've known that was coming. We talked about it some throughout this season's, Q&A streams that we do every week. because a lot of those came after Neil Brown's radio show, and he talked about that a couple of times on his radio show that they were supposed to be getting a new set of uniforms. I think Mike Kazaza since, confirmed that on their podcast, and also broke some news that it looks like we'll be wearing black uniforms for the opener against Penn State potentially. Don't know if they'll unveil those at the spring game, but I'm sure we'll get a good look at our new uniform set, and hopefully it's pretty good looking one. I'm big on the uniform talk here, always in the streams, got to carve that out. But just in case you guys didn't know, wanted to reiterate the spring game, April 27th. So that's one off-season topic we could touch on there. And then also, of course, you may know some coaching staff changes occurred for West Virginia. They had a couple spots to fill. Dante Wright leaving for Troy to become the defensive coordinator, and Sean Reagan leaving to become the offensive coordinator under new head coach Jared Parker, who we know was at West Virginia a few years ago before leaving for Notre Dame, and then now taking over there at Troy. So let's see here if I can pull up the coaching staff here on the official page there, WVUsports.com. You will see these were announced recently officially. I think in the past, I want to say month for both of them probably. But Victor Cabral was the first one confirmed to be outside linebackers coach. I think it was right around the time we found out that he was going to be the fill in there as the outside linebackers coach that we learned Sean Reagan would be leaving. And not long after, West Virginia promoted Tyler Allen from assistant to full-time coach there to coach the quarterbacks. I think the interesting part of this move is just how West Virginia's defensive staff shakes out now. You don't have, a cornerbacks coach and a safeties coach. You lost your safeties coach in Dante Wright. So people were wondering, are you going to bring in another safeties coach, someone else in the defensive back to help with the defensive backs? West Virginia elects to go another route. They bring in Victor Cabral to coach the outside linebackers. I think that's a good move because West Virginia is supposed to be moving to more of a 3-4 scheme. They have some of these guys that are going to, help with that pass rush. Tyron Bradley, a guy they just brought in, Ty French. We're talking more about the transfers here in a second. So I think that's good in that aspect, but also it makes you wonder, there's not many programs or any that I know of where one coach coaches the entire, cornerbacks and second and safeties. I'm sure that, Shadon Brown's still going to be assisted by Javon Codlin, who is, the grad assistant that helps with the cornerbacks. But pretty much you got Shadon Brown and coaching the entire back end for West Virginia's defense this year. So it's an interesting experiment. We'll see how it plays out, but I think that West Virginia has shown in the past with this staff, they're able to, do some of those things, those experiments, and they've paid off. So hopefully this is another one that works out well. I know a lot of people were questioning last year the idea of, having Chad Scott as offensive coordinator, but letting Neil Brown decide to remain play caller, but that worked out pretty good. Chad Scott's ingenuity and then Neil Brown's experience calling the plays, I think, worked out really well for the majority of the season. Last year, play calling wasn't anything to gripe about. So hopefully this move on the defensive side pays off. But the updated 2 new coaches to West Virginia's coaching staff, of course, here, Victor Cabral, the outside linebackers coach, and Tyler Allen, the new quarterbacks coach for the 2024 season. And I'll scroll through here so you guys can get a full look at the staff. Everyone else still back from last season, though. So wanted to update the coaching staff now with those 2 new additions here. Timothy says he really liked the new defensive players that we have picked up, as do I, Tim. And that's a perfect transition because I wanted to talk a little bit about those guys as well. Let's pull up the transfer tracker that we use here on the Country Roads webcast and talk a little bit about some of these because just recently I did a video on this. Hopefully you guys had a chance to check out that video already. But most recently, West Virginia brought in 2 grad transfers because obviously the only players you're going to bring in right now are probably grad transfers because the transfer portal is closed. Only grad transfers are able to move freely. Everyone else has to kind of abide by those windows. They can only enter, in that time frame. So these 2 guys coming from Northwestern, both grad transfers with a year left. Jaheim Joseph is going to be a safety for the Mountaineers. Now, is he going to factor into the spear spot? We know West Virginia needs someone to play that role. It's kind of been a de facto slot corner type position. And you lose Marcus Floyd, you lose Hershey McLaurin. Hershey McLaurin transferred to Houston, Marcus Floyd to graduation. Both those guys were kind of your mainstays there last season. You were kind of looking at the roster throughout this offseason, wondering who would fill in there. West Virginia has, players in the defensive backfield, but you would have to move someone to that spear position because obviously Aubrey Burks played free safety last year. Anthony Wilson played cat safety. Not to say that either one of those guys couldn't potentially move there. It's possible. I think a recruit like Zay Jennings has a chance to maybe play there. And then, who knows about other guys on the roster? Could they move there? Aiden Nelson is a safety on the team. Obviously, he's playing basketball currently. Jacoby Spells is a cornerback. Could they maybe try him there? Who knows? But I think Jaheim Joseph, out of the transfers that West Virginia has brought in, is probably the most likely to try out at that spear spot first. And although, the spring semester is getting ready to start, or I think may have already started at West Virginia, not 100% sure. These guys are still going to be able to enroll and be here in time for the spring, the way I understand it, because Northwestern semesters are a little bit set up a little bit differently. So they should be able to still be here for spring football, which will be good. And you'll get to see kind of some of these pieces in your defensive backfield where you want them to play, try them out at different positions, maybe even cross-train them because lo and behold, injury pop up or anything. But the good side of this is West Virginia is definitely going to have more depth than they had last season. Last year you had Beanie Bishop at one corner and Malachi Ruffin at the other, essentially playing pretty much the whole game. They got to a point where Jacoby Spells was, giving both those guys a rest at time, but you didn't really have anyone other than that. West Virginia wanted to alleviate that problem through the transfer portal. They wanted to, of course, obviously find replacements for those starters because Malachi Ruffin and Beanie Bishop both have moved on for graduation. So you either had to replace that with, Jacoby Spells and maybe Montre Miller, who's hopefully going to get a waiver, transferred over from Kent State last year. Didn't get a chance to see him on the field, but you guys remember I was really high on him last offseason. So you got those two, but you knew you needed to add bodies. West Virginia had already added Aiden Garnes from Duquesne, who had a good season last year and was a standout for that program. Colorado State's TJ Crandall, another lengthy corner who, that's the theme of the corners West Virginia has added. Good length, 6'1" and above on most of these guys. But TJ Crandall's offer list was insane. West Virginia did heck of a job to be able to pick him up. And then you also just recently, as I said, added Garnett Hollis, who is 6'2" in his own right and was very highly rated. I think that Garnett Hollis has a great chance to be one of West Virginia's two starting cornerbacks. Between these three guys, I'd say one of them ends up starting as one of West Virginia's two corners. And, obviously they're going to compete with Montre Miller and Jacoby Spells. But between, these, five guys, you definitely should have a two deep on each side of the cornerback position. And then adding Jaheim Joseph at safety is big because, like I said, West Virginia needed someone at the spear. You had Burks back. You had Wilson back. I think you're confident enough in both of those guys, especially Burks. And I think you're confident enough in Burks to the point that maybe he's the one that you move to spear and you allow Jaheim Joseph to play free safety because that's where he played last year at Northwestern as well. So, either way, I think you're in a good spot because Aubrey Burks played good at free safety. He probably knows the defense well enough to play any position. Jaheim Joseph, they moved around a little bit, although he primarily played free safety. So one of the two could be your spear this upcoming season. But I think both those were big pickups from Northwestern. And, let's not forget they're coming from a Big Ten school, same as, Beanie Bishop, who just came in as a transfer and ended up as a consensus All-American, first ever transfer to do that at WVU. So, that's just kind of my thoughts, though. But I talked about PFF College giving West Virginia a lot of love this offseason. That's why, I included them in the thumbnail here on this video. And, one of the things they've been giving love on is some of the transfers West Virginia's picked up. Jaheim Joseph I'll share first because we were obviously just talking about him. So the highest graded transfer safeties you see here, this shared by PFF, and Jaheim Joseph that I just talked about is the fourth highest graded transfer safety in the country with an 80.7 defensive grade last year. So that's very good. You bring in a top, 5 transfer safety in the country to add to your defensive backfield. And then additionally, pull this up as well from PFF College. Even more impressive, I think, is that you brought in the highest graded defensive tackle transfer in the entire country. TJ Jackson with the 89.7 defensive grade last year at Troy, number 1 rated defensive tackle transfer. So you're adding him to a defensive line that already, was strong last season, probably your strongest unit on defense. You still have Fatorma Mulba, Hammond Russell, Eddie V, Sean Martin, Zakai Lawton, Asani Redwood. You go on down the list, you're going to have a ton of guys there. So adding that name is great. And I think West Virginia added some other guys that are really going to help there at the pass rush. I talked about a guy named Ty French earlier. West Virginia added from Gardner-Webb. I think he's got the chance to be a pass rushing specialist. He could rack up a lot of sacks for West Virginia this year. So when you look at the guys that West Virginia brought in, the TJ Jacksons, the Ty Frenches, Reed Carrico to add to the linebacking core that's young, but I think very talented with a high ceiling for West Virginia. West Virginia's defense certainly should improve next season, and potentially the pass defense has the capability to be really good, actually, because you're going to have good pass rush, which you had at times last season already, but you're going to have the strength on the back end to be able to hold up behind that with the safeties you have, the corners you brought in, and the young corners that you're moving up. Jacoby Spells, I'm thinking of primarily there. So I think West Virginia's defense is set to have some good improvements this year for sure. And then one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, you may have seen in the thumbnail, was Zack Frasier in the NFL draft. We know that's coming up here just a few short months, I believe. April, I believe the draft is in. But NFL.com this past week released their newest mock draft, Danielle Jeremiah. And Mountaineer fans will be pleased to see Zack Frasier showing up in the first round. I'm sure you're not surprised, but that is no small feat for a center to be, projected to be a first-round draft pick. I knew he would be high up. I was expecting second, maybe early third round, but to see him go in the first round would be phenomenal, and I think he has a great chance to do so. You've seen him attached to a lot of teams. I think the Eagles are one people have talked about if Jason Kelsey may be retiring, but there's rumors that he may not be retiring. And I know the Steelers are heavily interested in Zack Frasier. Honestly, there's a lot of smoke there. Pittsburgh has the opportunity to get Zack Frasier, I think they will. But here in this mock draft from Danielle Jeremiah, you see the Detroit Lions taking Zack Frasier there with the 29th pick. And I think that would be a good landing spot for Zack Frasier because obviously it's a team that was, close to playing in the Super Bowl this year. So Zack Frasier could, be the piece that helps them get over the hump. And the Lions starting guards are scheduled to reach free agency this offseason. And this feels like Dan Campbell's type of player. Frasier, a state champion wrestler in high school, could step right in at guard and eventually move to center. So according to Danielle Jeremiah here on this mock draft, he thinks the Lions could draft Frasier to play him at guard and then eventually shift over to center, which doesn't that sound familiar? That's exactly what West Virginia did, played him at guard early in his career and then became, one of the best centers in school history and one of the best West Virginia players of all time that's going to go on to a long NFL career. So wanted to share that there as well as we're talking off-season storylines. But the biggest, storyline recently, for me and maybe for some of you all as well, EA Sports College Football 25. I want to talk a little bit about that. Got a few short news stories to share about that. But before I do, take a swig of my water here. Bear with me. Timmy says maybe a couple of these young men can be like Beanie Bishop was last year. That would be great. Absolutely, Tim. I mean, if even a couple of them can be half as good as Beanie was, I think that you're set, And the good thing is, last year West Virginia was able to get one Beanie, but due to the program being in a better state this offseason, Neil Brown's job status not being up in the air, and of course having Beanie Bishop now as a testimony to some of these players, you see West Virginia was able to do a lot better job in the transfer cycle, especially this early cycle pre-spring, because you remember last year West Virginia didn't get Beanie until that post-spring transfer window there in between spring and the start of fall camp. So West Virginia's done a lot better job in the early transfer portal window this year, I think, bringing in a lot of these good defensive backs, Aiden Garnes, TJ Crandall, Garnett Hollis. All of these guys got a great chance to compete for the starting job with Montre Miller and Jacoby Spells. And I think West Virginia's secondary, should improve overall. I know it's weird to say when you just had a consensus All-American corner, but I think we all know that the secondary was probably the weakness of the defense despite that, and there was no depth there. Now I think you have some talent there, but more importantly, you should have depth, which is going to be great for this season and hopefully the success therein. But I want to talk a little bit about EA Sports College Football 25. If you guys don't know, the game is slated to come back this summer. People are expecting probably a July release. They released a teaser a week before last, and then this past week they came out and all 134 FBS teams were confirmed. Whole bunch of other news. You got all the commentators confirmed. West Virginia, sent out their graphic to be confirmed in the game, and a slew of news. And for me, this is big. I'm not a huge video game person, but that's the one video game I always did play. and the one that I was always hooked on. I still play NCAA Football 14. They've continued to update the rosters. You may have seen here on the channel, I did a video about WVU in the game, and I went through and highlighted some of West Virginia's old rosters that we missed and talked about what we could expect, for West Virginia EA Sports College Football 25. I want to take that a little bit further. Like I said, I covered on my other channel. You can see the logo here on my beanie, JC's Pop Culture, which I encourage you subscribe there if you haven't already. If you're a fan of movies, TV shows, and of course EA Sports College Football 25, I'll be providing updates up to the lead up of it, but I'm also talking comedy movies, horror movies, superhero movies, especially Superman and DC, stuff like that. So if you're a fan of that, subscribe there as well. It's JC''S Pop Culture. But I've been updating college football a ton there. I'll continue to do that. And I just put out a podcast recently, everything that's confirmed for EA Sports College Football 25. I'll pull up that list here, share it with you guys momentarily. But before I do, how about some more WVU news that I think is actually pretty big in regards to this game? And you may have seen this. Garrett Green posted on Instagram, I'm in the game, hashtag college football 25, at EA Sports College, hashtag EA Athlete. And the reason I think that this is big, because if you've noticed, of course, everyone's able to opt into the game now. That's one of the big things that came out Thursday. They started sending out the contracts via, I think it's called the Compass app, is how these players are able to opt in. They get $600 and a free copy of the game. But when you've seen these promotions, it's been from really big names across college football. And when they announced this stuff about, the game and then NIL, they also announced, at least 100 or more so athletes would also have a chance to earn more than the 600 with, marketing opportunities, and some would be, EA athletes and things like that. And a lot of these, you've seen posts like this come out on social media from some big names at Ohio State, Alabama, places, blue blood schools. And to see Garrett Green get one of these graphics and be, have the hashtag EA athlete means that he is probably being, up there in that upper tier of athletes that's going to be able to make more than just the 600. He's probably included in that 100 or so players that are going to be involved in the marketing of this game, which means he's probably going to be a marquee player on this game. We're talking, 85 to 90 overall, maybe, or something like that. I'm thinking, because you've seen lists come out, and I talked about it on that one video. Jaheim White is, believed to be one of the most exciting players to play with in the game, and Garrett Green was rated as a top 10 quarterback, believed to be in the game. So it's going to be a lot of fun playing with West Virginia, but also seems like you could have a marquee player that's going to be involved in the marketing with Garrett Green coming out with this on Instagram lately. And it's, as you see, a paid partnership there with EA. So that's pretty interesting. And, a lot of the news has come out. So I just wanted to try and summarize it a little bit. And like I said, I did this on my JC's Pop Culture channel. And I won't go into as in-depth as I did on that, but I do a weekly podcast there as well. You can find it on all podcast platforms, where I did discuss this list in detail just a few days ago. I released that episode, but this is everything that's confirmed thus far for the video game for those of you guys that are interested in it. It's releasing sometime this summer, potentially July. That's when all the other ones usually came out, about second or third week of July. The quote-unquote full reveal from EA Sports, they have teased is coming in May. Now, whether that's gameplay footage, cover athlete, multiple things, we'll see. But what I can tell you is that Thursday before last, they released the teaser trailer. Then this past Thursday, they had a big ESPN article sharing a bunch of info and talking about the players' NIL deals and sending out the contracts. It seems like in the weeks leading up to that, whatever the full reveal is in May, maybe on every Thursday, maybe every other Thursday, we're going to get a little bit of info about this game. And I'll continue to update it on my other channel there, JC's Pop Culture, and anything that's WVU related for the game, we can talk about here also. All 134 FBS schools will be in the game. Coaches will not be in the game. I think this will change in the future. Obviously, this is the first iteration of this game coming back in over a decade, and they're having to build it from the ground up. It's a completely new game. It's not the NCAA football series it used to be. This is EA Sports College Football. They can't use any footage from that old game, not a single sound, not a single anything. So having to rebuild the stadiums, everything. Obviously, they were just trying to focus on getting the universities right, getting the stadiums right, getting the players in and stuff. So coaches were kind of an afterthought this time, but who knows, they may add them in on a patch. But I'd say for sure by, EA Sports College Football 26, they'll be in the game. FCS schools will not be in the game on release, but they haven't ruled out adding them up with a patch. As I stated earlier, players that opt into the game will receive $600 and a free copy of the game. Over the past couple of years, this was first announced, I think, in 2020, the game was, and it was originally going to come out in 2023 in the summer. but they pushed it back a year. And one of the reasons why is they were wanting to be thorough in collecting team assets. Now, what is team assets, you may ask? Well, they sent out a huge spreadsheet to every university wanting to know their, obviously get every detailed photos of their stadium so they can recreate the stadium. So you'll get to see Milan Puskar Stadium the way it looks now with all of its updates that they've undergone in recent years in the game, but also uniforms. So I'm sure West Virginia probably sent their new uniform set. We'll probably have West Virginia's 2024 uniforms in the game. Maybe those black unis will even be in the game. Game day sounds. So first down chant should be in the game. All of, they wanted detailed lists of your stadium game day atmosphere. EA Sports did when they sent it out to these schools. What quarter do you play what song? What songs do you play on third down? So the bells will probably be on the game. West Virginia's first down chant will probably be on the game. So even Country Roads may be on the game if they were able to secure the rights, because they said, they were wanting you to send stuff like that. Even licensed music that you use, they may try and get the rights for. So the pageantry is really supposed to be in this game, because that's what they've spent the last 3 years doing, is collecting data from these universities. So I'm sure that Ren Baker and the athletic department and Mike Montoro put together a detailed list of the West Virginia University Saturday, game day experience there, and it's going to be recreated in this game and be a lot of fun to play with. Dynasty mode, Road to Glory mode, and Ultimate Team mode all confirmed to return. And Dynasty mode is being built as the flagship mode of the game, which really excites me because that was always my favorite mode, especially online Dynasty, and that's what I'll be playing a ton of. This Thursday, 7 commentators confirmed they were in the game as well when this news broke this past Thursday, with College Game Day confirmed to be in the game, probably in Dynasty mode and in Road to Glory mode as well. And they may have something to do with SportsCenter also. ESPN is believed to be in the game. The ticker on the bottom of the screen will return like it was in previous college football games. But the 7 commentators that are confirmed thus far: Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler, Reese Davis, David Pollock, Desmond Howard, Jesse Palmer, and Kevin Connors. New additions to the game will be transfer portal and NIL, which will be pretty cool, because now not only will you get to recruit high school, but you'll get to recruit the portal as well. And I'm sure NIL, maybe it'll be factored in like salary cap is kind of used in Madden video games. The 12-team playoff, which it was just made official this week, will be in the game, and also probably be customizable to maybe, shrink it down or maybe even expand it larger or turn it off and go back to the BCS era stuff if you want. And the same goes with NIL, and transfer portal may be able to be turned on or off in Dynasty mode. Customizable conferences will return. Like I said, playoff settings will be customizable. The Reese Senior Bowl mode is rumored to maybe be an addition, but that's not 100% confirmed yet. And then as far as opt-ins, like I said, players getting these emails, they have to go on this app, opt in, do an e-signature, they get their $600, they get their free copy of the game, and they get represented in the video game. But if for some reason a player chooses not to, or they forget to opt into the game, then a generic player is put on that game in their place, and that player's ratings is determined by the success of that position at said school over the past decade. And users will not be able to create players that have opted out of the game, although create a player will still be in the feature in the game, and Team Builder is rumored to return as well. The game's going to be released on PS5 and Xbox Series X. No confirmation on PC yet. But as far as what's really cool is, one thing, you're going to get a ratings reveal for college players for the first time ever, because we're getting the actual players in there. So we're going to see what Garrett Green's ratings are going to be starting off. But also EA Sports is going to update the game throughout the season. So, once Jaheim White's having an awesome season, his ratings are going to go up throughout the year. And, same for other players and stuff. But West Virginia, I think, is going to be really fun to play with on this game, guys. Just wanted to share a little bit about everything that's confirmed thus far. They're going to be really fun to play with on this, because it's almost going to throw you back to, the Pat White, Steve Slayton days when West Virginia was a cheat code on the game then, because Jaheim White's going to have good speed, good rating. CJ Donaldson's going to have a good rating. Garrett Green obviously is going to have a very good rating, being an EA partner, EA athlete, paid partnership with the game. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But one more thing on EA Sports College Football I want to share, and then I'll catch up on some of your all's comments before I touch on my final news stories. Won't keep you guys too much later, but this just came out recently as we're talking about the commentators. Once that news came out, Chris Fowler put out this video, and this is pretty cool. So I'm going to share this with you guys real quick. Pretty cool update that he shared on the game.
Finally, I can tell you about what's been going on behind closed doors. We're in the smallest room in the house for about 2 years. Voiceover sessions for EA Sports CFP 25. Microphone, digital recorder, laptop, where they have Zoom calls where guys from EA are engineering and directing these sessions. It has been fun. It's been taxing sometimes, monotonous at other times, because everything you could possibly see in a football game, even the mundane plays, I've said into that microphone many, many different ways. Bunch of stuff you'd never see in a real game. I've described. You want to punt on second down, try a 71-yard field goal. That's in the game too, along with the appropriate analysis of those decisions. Your quarterback throws 5 picks in the first quarter or 5 touchdowns. We got you covered there too in detail. People have asked, when my team scores a touchdown, will there be appropriate excitement like a real game? Hell yes. EA insists on realism. I sat here in an hour and said, touchdown, Alabama, all the way down to touchdown, Wyoming, along with the version for the team nicknames. It was like a month of touchdown calls in an hour. I needed the T for the voice. Kirk and I have had joint sessions playing off each other like we would in a real booth. There's going to be incredible detail. What I've seen of the game will blow people away, and really excited for you to see it. Probably can't answer most of your questions about the game, but I know it's going to be great. Can't wait.
So pretty awesome stuff there from Chris Fowler, and always enjoyed him being on the college football video games. But it seems like good news all around for that game. And everyone that's talked about it, that's got their hands on it, you know, the guy that they from EA Sports that was in the ESPN article said he was blown away. Chris Fowler there said he was blown away. So I'm super excited. Can't get here soon enough, guys. And I'm going to post here in the chat a link. That's a link to my other channel, the JC's Pop Culture channel. If you're into EA Sports College Football 25, be sure hit that link, go over there, subscribe there for me. Like I said, I'm updating, they're going to be updating that video game more there, talking about it a ton there in the lead up to its release in July. And I also talk a ton of movies and TV shows as well, if you're into that kind of stuff as well. But let me catch up on some of your all's comments and then hit a couple more topics I got before we get out of here before too much longer. But appreciate you guys tuning in and chiming in. Drop any questions, comments, concerns you got there in the chat. And if you are in here live or even watching the playback, hit that thumbs up button. Really helps a ton. If you're a WVU fan, be sure to subscribe here. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. HBA Farkle says the judicial decision, if I could say judicial correctly, the judicial decision on NIL may be the death of college recruiting as we know it. Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot of people talking about that, and it seems like, I don't know if it's going to be the death knell of college recruiting necessarily as much as it could be just the death knell of the NCAA itself, and start to kind of inevitably get that ball rolling to what we all probably know is coming, where these Power 4, Power 3, whatever it ends up being, conferences kind of just form their own entity, more or less. I mean, the college football playoff's not tied to the NCAA really already. So, it's kind of moving that way. But I know that NIL judicial decision, man, that's a judicial decision. That's a tongue twister for me for some reason. But I know that's big. I need to look into it more. I don't want to say too much about it because, like I said, I haven't had a chance to look into it enough to know the overall effects. But I know that it's big because I've heard a few podcasts, few shows talk about it. So it's definitely big, and it's definitely changing the game because, essentially it's like no rules right now, right? Until that, injunction's up, which is at least going to be months or so. So yeah, what already we were describing as the wild, wild west of college football just got more wild for the upcoming season. Hey, Kenny, what's going on? See you in there. Doing good, man. Hope you're doing good too, bro. Good to see you in here, Kenny. Timmy says he would like to see the new black uniforms possibly on the game. I think there's a good chance. And here's what I'll say in addition, though. If they're not on there at the game, at the release, like for the release of the game, the good news is they're going to continually service this game throughout the year. Like I said, they're going to do roster updates throughout the season, which is something we've never had in a college football game for one. But also, I'm sure they're going to be constantly releasing, new uniforms for, some teams that didn't get a chance to get theirs in, or maybe some alternates that are just released for this season. They didn't have time to make the deadline for since the game is coming out in the summer. So with a patch, I'm sure those black uniforms will show up if we do indeed wear them against Penn State, like it sounds like we're going to. Kenny says, I believe we will have ESPN Game Day for WVU, and when the black uniforms will be revealed for that game. I hope so, man. I think there's a good chance of it, man. I'm pretty, I'd say there's an 80% chance West Virginia wears the black uniforms for the Penn State game at this point. because I just don't think that Mike Casazza would have came out and said that if he wasn't 100% confident enough that it was happening. He wouldn't have wanted to unveil that. So I think there's a really good chance of that happening. College game day, they should, because I'm expecting us to be ranked. Penn State's obviously going to be ranked. And if we're finally breaking out the black uniforms, that atmosphere is going to be insane. It was going to be insane enough already. But, man, I can't wait to be there for that one. That's going to be an insane atmosphere, and we should give them a run for their money, guys. And I think that we've got a great chance to win that game. I think that, I don't want to talk too much about it. I want to wait till we get closer to the season, save some of this for spring and for the lead up in the summer and stuff. But I'm really excited about this year's team, guys. I think we got a chance to have a very special season, and I guess I'll just leave it at that. Timmy Green says, I just went over and subscribed. Hey, appreciate that, Timmy. Hey, anyone else that does that, I really appreciate that as well. Trying to grow that. Sometimes it takes it a while to get off the ground. Seems like getting that first, 100 subscribers or so is really the hard part. So if you guys could get me up to at least 100, that would be awesome. But I really appreciate you guys. I always show WVU love over there, even though I'm talking movies and TV shows. I always shout out some stuff, especially when I'm talking EA Sports College Football 25. I throw in a little WVU love, and in my thumbnails, I'll throw WVU player in there usually if I'm talking EA Sports College Football 25. I think I've had Garrett Green in one of my EA Sports College Football thumbs, Beanie Bishop in one, and then Jaheim White in a couple of them, including I think I included the PS5 cover I made for the pre-release College Football 25 wish list video that I did on that channel. I threw it in here on the thumbnail for this live stream as well because I really love that little custom cover look there. But yeah, black uniforms for Penn State, agreed, Kenny, and they should be awesome. The only complaint that I have is that, I think I talked about this when I did the video talking about the uniforms on the last live stream I did, is that according to Mike, that they're black and then all white uniforms, white logos and stuff, which is fine if you want to go white, but at least give me a gold trim or a blue trim around that white. I don't know. I would have went, with more gold and blue incorporated with the black, because black and gold looks good together too. So, but that's just my opinion. Hopefully it looks better in practice than it sounds like in my mind's eye. So we'll see though. Either way, I'm excited to see us finally get the black. I know we've all been, preaching for the coal rush forever. I remember, what was it, 2018 season? There was that big petition. It was going around everywhere. So that place is going to get extremely loud when they run onto that field in black uniforms, for sure. Should be a lot of fun. But a couple more things here. I know one other thing that was in the thumbnail, and I think, like I said, I talked about this in the past. I can't remember if it was on a video or a previous live stream, but WVU announced earlier this offseason the NIL store. And this is pretty cool, guys. A chance to, directly contribute to your favorite athlete, to contribute to your favorite sport. And not only are you contributing directly, to their pockets to help them out, but also you're getting cool gear that you get to rock and rep them, whether you want to rep a certain sport or a certain athlete. All you do, you go to wvu.nil.store, and then you can come here. You can search by sport. You can search by athlete. You can just look directly at jerseys. But it's pretty cool. Like, say you click sport here, and then it pulls them all up. You can go West Virginia football, and these are all the players that are, teamed up with the NIL store here. And you click one, and you look and get some of their merch. You can go Rodney Gallagher here, and they got a jersey, T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. So you can support any player. And like I said, they have it across all kinds of sports. You want to go women's basketball, get you some JJ Quinterly merch, you can do that as well. So pretty cool, and I wanted to take a chance to promote that. So like I said, it's wvu.nil.store. Get cool West Virginia merch, support your favorite athlete. They get money for it, and you get the cool gear to wear. So wanted to support that, show, some love to that as well. Always got to show love to the NIL, always try and promote Country Roads Trust. And then, of course, now that that's launched, try and promote that when I can as well, just because the NIL space is a way that we directly as fans can kind of contribute to our team's success in a way, because that money is going to help in the long run, one way or the other. There is no amount too small or too large, for sure. It's all going to help. And then I think I had one more PFF college thing I wanted to share. And then I just have one last thing, guys, and we'll get up out of here before too much longer. I encourage you guys one more time. Any questions, comments, concerns you got there, drop them in the chat. I'll touch on those one more time momentarily before we get ready to close up shop here on this W Football News Offseason Roundup live stream. I just titled it that. But here you go, PFF College. Like I said, seems like every time I've hopped on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you call it nowadays, they've been giving West Virginia all kinds of love. I showed a couple of the transfer rankings list where Jaheim Joseph was high, TJ Jackson was high, but they've shown Garrett Green a lot of love as well. And Max Chadwick at PFF came out with this throughout this offseason, stating that Garrett Green is the most underrated quarterback in college football entering next year. And I tend to agree with that statement. I think a lot of people, if you go look at the stats, look at the numbers, you'll realize Garrett Green really, kind of flew under the radar and had an absolutely phenomenal year last season that's really, hopefully continues to fly under the radar and people continue to sleep on him. I think that's even, I retweeted this with, let him sleep or whatever, because people were sleeping on Garrett Green, and hopefully they do. Hopefully we continue to be the underdog, but I think he's set for a very special season, because one thing that we know is quarterbacks at WVU, typically their second year starting, they take a big jump. So, him, now going from year 1 to year 2 should take a big leap. And if he does that, the sky's the limit, because he had a phenomenal season last year as it was. I mean, if you look at PFF grades, I don't know if I can't find it right now, right off, I don't think, but he actually graded out as a top 10 quarterback in the country last year, and graded out a 1/10 of a point higher than Drake May. And, right there with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman. So that's the type of grade that Garrett Green had last year, and the type of season that he had, 90+ overall offensive grade. So very impressive, and glad to see PFF College not only giving him some love, but just giving the Mountaineers some love in general throughout this offseason, because like I said, I think we're set up for a special season this year, guys. Sometimes you can just get that feeling and you sense it, and that's just kind of how I'm feeling throughout this offseason, and hopefully that continues leading up to the fall. But the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is just this quick little 30-second trailer. Hopefully some of you guys saw this on social media. You guys know how much I rave about West Virginia's creative team and the media team, the good job they do making the, pregame trailers, the hype videos, whatever you want to call them. I always share those on the Q&A streams throughout the fall, and try and share the cinematic recaps as well, because they do a great job with that. But seems like throughout this offseason, they've put together a bit of a documentary, I guess you could call it, that they're going to be premiering here this coming Friday on March 1st. And just tonight on social media, they've released the little teaser trailer for it. So let me share this with you guys. And if you haven't seen it, hopefully it will get you excited for this Friday when they release the full version. But it is going to be titled Huddy Tuddy, the Hudson Clement walk-on story. So should be a lot of fun, and Mountaineer Nation should be excited to watch this one. But 30-second teaser trailer they dropped for it. Like I said, the full documentary coming this Friday from the WVU football media team. You'll be able to find it on the WVU football Twitter and X page, and WVU social media pages. I'm sure they'll have it up on the YouTube as well. But here's the brief trailer for it.
I don't really know how it ends up happening towards the end of the game and the big time moments. They say big time players make big time plays, but
Yeah, Hudson's he's just a damn football player.
To the 15, to the 10, to the 5, he's to the end zone, touchdown, West Virginia.
I did not think I was going to get 8 touchdowns.
Nobody can score that many touchdowns in a game and not play ball.
And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And Mike's like, he started.
Hudson Clement with a first half hat trick.
He earned himself a scholarship.
Fireworks lift into the nighttime sky.
So pretty sweet. The Hudson Clement walk-on story documentary debuting this Friday on the WVU social media pages, and I'm sure on their YouTube as well. So be sure check that out. Just wanted to share that trailer, but that's pretty much all the topics that I had pulled up, guys. I wanted to talk a little Yay Sports College Football 25 with you. I think West Virginia is going to be a fun team to play with in that game, and probably one that a lot of people try and play with, because the running quarterback and Garrett Green, the two good running backs, a lot of speed at receiver, should be a good defense this year, I think. And especially if the defense is as good as I believe it can be, their ratings are going to continue to improve throughout the year. As I said, they'll continue to release those ratings updates throughout the season. So it should be a lot of fun, but we'll be competing with, other players throughout the nation, because I think they're going to want to play with the Mountaineers as well. So us West Virginia fans are going to have to stake our claim early. But like I said, I'll continue to talk about that on the JC's Pop Culture channel. Subscribe there. But more importantly, if you're a WVU fan, be sure that you're subscribed here to the Country Roads webcast. We'll do more of these live streams once spring football starts. There'll be one every week. And of course, same goes throughout the fall football season. There's one every week then, sometimes 2 live streams a week. And there's at least 1 or 2 podcast episodes releasing weekly throughout the fall football season as well that you can find the video version of here on YouTube or on WVSportsNow.com, and the audio versions up on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, you name it. Just search Country Roads Webcast. But I appreciate you guys that have tuned into this one. I'm going to catch up on your all's comments and then get out of here before too much longer. Let's see what we got here. Timothy Green says, I know you love the gold. Hey, you know it, Timmy. I'm going to be rocking the all gold, man, on the game when I get to play with West Virginia. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed on these new uniforms, we still got the gold helmets and stuff. Can't take away my gold helmets. I need to go gold, gold, gold. I got to have them all gold, Timmy. I know I'm in the minority among the WVU fan base, but I love the gold. I wanted it for so long. I remember, I think 2007 was the first time we wore the gold jerseys. I believe it was Mississippi State. And every time we'd wear the gold jerseys and we'd have, the gold rush, but we'd wear blue helmets because that was we only had the blue helmets up until 2013. So then when we finally got the gold helmets, I was ecstatic, even though I know that 2013 uniform set was ugly. But from then on, the 2019 uniform set was a lot better. And who knows, hopefully this one will even top that one. But I hope we keep the gold helmets as well and have still the gold and blue variations personally, because I'm the big fan of gold. Kenny says, NCAA doesn't hold water like they did 10 years ago. They are the past. We'll move on from them in probably 2 years or so. Yeah, I don't know if it's 2, Kenny. I'd say somewhere in the next handful probably, but you're definitely not wrong there. It's going to happen. The Power 3 conferences, Power 4 conferences, whatever it ends up being, and however many teams that ends up being, I think will kind of do their own thing. And whether that means the NCAA will be everyone that's left still playing here in the NCAA, and then that being a separate college league, or what, we'll just have to wait and kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. But we're certainly continuing to just take steps further and further in that direction till it seems we're getting to where that destination is all but inevitable, especially with that NIL judicial decision. I almost said it that time cleanly. Timmy says, this is one of my all-time favorite YouTube shows. Appreciate all you do. Hey, man, that really means a lot, Timmy. You're one of the best Mountaineer fans I know, man. You, Kenny, all you guys that are in here watching this, whether you're watching live or playback, you're all great Mountaineer fans, and I appreciate that, man. Just try and, create a cool space where we can all just come and hang out, turn your brain off for a little bit, but just talk WVU sports with some friends and not have to worry about any of the BS going on in the outside world or anything. It's just, Mountaineers and college football, 2 of my favorite things in the world. That's why I'm so excited about the CA Sports college football game, because I just love college football so much, and it's the one video game that I always, get excited to play. Timmy says, I hope we go 10-2 or 11-1. I don't think you're wrong there, and Kenny, you're not, being too hyperbolic either. I think if you guys didn't get a chance to check it out, go watch on WVU Football Going Deep's channel, which is another WVU football channel you should subscribe to if you haven't already. He did a great live stream a couple nights ago where we did bold predictions. And me and him both kind of agreed that right now we feel like the floor for this team is 9 wins. Just because some of the offseason moves they've made here on the defensive side. And if those hold water the way that we think they will and the defense improves to go along with the offense that was already really good and is only probably going to get better because those players were young, this team should easily, I don't want to say easily, but could easily win 9 regular season games. And so going up from there is not too far of a stretch, Timmy or Kenny. Kenny says the way it lines up for us, it's hard, but we can do it. I'm glad they put the Cincy game close to Thanksgiving. Indeed. But I was talking about this with a friend earlier. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is because I think West Virginia has a team that's capable of playing in a Big 12 championship game this year. But the thing I would hate is that we've got, the big conference now, what it's going to be 14 teams, 16, whatever it is. But we don't have divisions, right? So it's still just going to be where the top 2 kind of play in that title game. And with it being so many teams, everybody doesn't play everybody. I feel like it's going to be a scenario where like there's 2, 3, 4 teams in the conference that have similar records, and 1, 2, and 3 are going to be very similar. And it's going to be like almost like a coin toss scenario or something, to where one team doesn't make the Big 12 championship game, and I would just hate it so bad. And it would be so on par with the luck we have as Mountaineer fans if we end up being that team that ends up in the third spot in the conference and misses out on the conference title. I would hate to see that with this, special season that I feel like it could be setting up for West Virginia. But the good news is, with that 12-team playoff that's confirmed that I briefly mentioned earlier, if we do find our way into that Big 12 championship game, all we got to do is win it. And guess what? The Mountaineers would be in the college football playoff. So as far out of the realm of possibility as it seemed when it was a 4-team playoff, now it's wide open for us. And I think this year we have as good a chance as we've had in a long time. I think this is going to be the most anticipated season since at least 2018. And we've got a lot of talent on the football field, and we're going to have a lot of depth, more so than we've had in quite some time. And I think, last year was just kind of tip of the iceberg of what this team could be. So hopefully they showcase it this year and prove me wrong. If not, maybe I'll eat crow later, but it won't be the first time I've had to do that either if I have to. But I think this team's going to prove me right in the fall, and it's going to be a really successful season. I just got a feeling it's going to be a special one. But Don Johnson, appreciate you tuning in and chiming in. The NCAA just does some of the worst decisions. It makes you wonder if they have any common sense. Our defense is going to be much improved with our offense. We have a good chance to beat Big 12. Yep, 100%. I think our offense obviously showed a lot last season, and, they're only going to get better. Jaheim White, another year under his belt, him and C.J. Donaldson, hopefully both healthy together. Ton of weapons on offense. And, of course, the question mark a couple months ago was the secondary. I think that's gone from a question mark to maybe an area of strength for you on defense with not only the bodies that you have there to provide depth, but I think that they're talented bodies as well. And, of course, I talked a bit about the pass rush earlier. So I think the defense can and will improve, and it could lead to big things for West Virginia in the Big 12 Conference indeed. As Kenny says, with how many weapons we've gained in the offseason, done an absolutely excellent job in the transfer portal. The best that this staff has done, in my opinion, especially in this early window, in quite some time. So, yeah, I'm getting really excited for this year, guys. We're just, a little over a couple of weeks away now from the start of spring football practice. So once that starts, like I said, I believe it's March 15th. These live streams will be coming more frequently, at least once a week then throughout spring football. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll have more of those in the future coming. And if you did enjoy this one, hit the thumbs up button, whether you got a chance to watch this live or if you're watching on a playback. If you didn't get a chance to watch it live and you're on the playback, drop thoughts in the comments. I'll try and respond there in text form. But as I said, if you're a WVU fan, be sure to subscribe here for future Mountaineer sports content. It's going to be coming hot and heavy with spring football getting ready to kick off. It'll be picking up here on the CRW. So having said that, appreciate you guys tuning in this one. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.